Night shift waitress saves a drunk billionaire. Then, she owns his entire hotel. This story follows Layla Green, a 27-year-old night shift waitress in the South Bronx who thinks faster than she doubts. One murderous storm at 3 a.m. tosses her head first into a choice that will upend an entire block force, a scattered hotel crew, to choose sides and shine a forensic torch on a white-collar predator who believes ordinary people never look up from the floor long enough to fight back. Rain slammed Decatur Avenue sideways, a gray wall that swallowed the streetlights and lashed garbage bags against chain-link fences. Layla should have been downstairs rolling silverware, but the dishwasher had sparked out, giving her 10 stolen minutes of fresh air. And there he was. A man in a silk trench coat tottered on the curb like a broken marionette. His polished shoes skidded out, and he pitched face first into a pothole already brimming with oily water. Two hooded silhouettes detached from the doorway of a shuttered pawnshop, their lazy stride sharpening the second they clocked the fallen stranger. Layla's heartbeat kicked. No time for calculus. She splashed across the gutter knees, kissing asphalt fingers sliding beneath the man's shoulders. Up close, he smelled of top-shelf scotch and bergamot cologne. Not street rot, definitely not local. "Sir, stay with me," she muttered, hauling. He was dead weight, except for a groan as she jerked him upright. Her sneakers squelched, her spine shrieked. Behind her, the pair in black hoodies crossed the double yellow without blinking. Layla dragged the stranger backward, boot heels skating toward the Emberlight Hotel's staff door. She knocked it open with a hip, half fell into the corridor, then kicked the door shut just as one of the men reached the threshold. Fluorescence buzzed overhead, flickering like nervous eyelids. She dumped her cargo onto a dented laundry cart and yanked her phone. "Nate, front desk, need a cab now." While dialing, she rifled the man's inside pocket. The leather wallet was so buttery, her wet fingers nearly slipped. Damian Roth, CEO, North Star Systems. The card read "Guilt" on midnight blue. Nate barreled out of the elevator wide-eyed. "We calling 911. "No sirens," Layla snapped. "Cab. Midtown." She knelt, pressed 2 fingers to Roth's carotid steady pulse, drunk not dying. The hotel's liquor license flashed through her mind. An ambulance would mean police reports, maybe fines. And those guys outside, they'd scatter and slink back tomorrow. Better to vanish the prize fast. 5 minutes later, a yellow cab fishtailed onto the loading ramp. Layla stuffed $50 hard-earned dollars into the driver's hand. Flat fee, no meter, 47th, and Madison keep him upright. The cabbie's eyebrows shot up, but he nodded. A drunk billionaire was still a billionaire. Layla buckled Roth's seatbelt herself. He blinked, eyes glassy. "You? Good people." He slurred, voice thick as molasses. "Don't forget. Matter." She closed the cab door, slapped the roof. Tires hissed into the curtain of rain. Only then did she notice her shaking hands. Water streamed from her hoodie cuffs, coins of grit pasted to her knees. Inside the corridor smelled of bleach and frying oil. Work waited 5 steps away, indifferent. Back in the kitchen, Chef Lorna arched a brow at Layla's drenched state. "You dive in the East River plumbing inspection." Layla deadpanned, swapping hoodies. Her pulse still jackhammered. $50 gone. One drunk CEO rerouted. 2 scavengers disappointed for tonight. But an unease prowled behind her ribs. When she clocked out at dawn, she Googled Damian Roth on a flickering lobby computer. Forbes lists, Davos panels, a net worth with more zeros than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. She shut the browser, exhausted. Good deed done right. Debt settled. 48 hours later, the lobby bell tinkled, and the man in the trench coat, sober, razor-pressed eyes clear as glass, walked in like a verdict. Every whisper in the room funneled toward Layla, still stuffing napkins. Damian Roth stopped 2 feet away, voice a calm stormfront. "I owe you far more than cab fare." He set a leather folio on the reception desk, its weight dull and certain. Layla's throat pinched. Behind her, Nate mouthed, "What the hell?" Chef Lorna peered out the kitchen pass-through. The whole Emberlight seemed to inhale. Roth's next words would rearrange her life. But the first domino had tumbled the moment she decided a stranger's dignity mattered more than her balance sheet. Layla squared her shoulders, wet hair still clinging to her neck from a shift that wasn't even over, and met the billionaire's gaze without a blink. Whatever game he'd bring, she was already on the board, and quitting wasn't in her playbook. Miss Green Roth said, tone-pitched for private conversation, yet loud enough for the nosiest busboy to latch onto every syllable. "You didn't just save me from bronchitis and a mugging. You kept me from becoming tomorrow's viral casualty. That sort of foresight deserves reciprocity." He slid the folio toward her. Inside crisp deeds, notarized transfers, and a one-page memo in fountain pen blue full ownership of the Emberlight Hotel will pass to Layla Green upon signature. All outstanding debts settled by Northstar Systems Capital Reserve. Layla's stomach dipped, as if the elevator had lost its cables. "Sir, I wait tables. I'm not a portfolio line." "Exactly," he answered. "You make decisions without a spreadsheet in front of you. That's rarer than you think." Roth's driver lingered, silver watch gleaming. Two reporters idled on the sidewalk smelling headline. Layla shut the folio. "Give me 48 hours." Roth's smile conceded the match. 48, but no more. He left to a hush, so thick even Chef Lorna, battle-hardened veteran of 1,000 Saturday rushes, simply stared at the glass doors after they closed. The employees erupted at once. Rosa blessed herself, promising novenas for Layla's good fortune. Nate spun a pen like a helicopter rotor, calculating tip percentages if the place survived. But Luis Cervantes, head of maintenance and unofficial union skeptic, folded his arms. Billionaires don't hand over property unless it's poisoned. Remember that bank foreclosure in 19, same smile, same handshake. Layla pocketed the folio. "Foreclosure didn't show up soaked on our curb," she answered, but Luis kept his eyes narrow, as if spotting hairline cracks no one else could see. She spent that night at the 24-hour laundromat, across from her walk-up documents, spread across a wobbling folding table, while dryers thumped behind her. Numbers looked clean, too clean. Vendor lists repeated in strange patterns. Helios Services billed $4,975 every month. Cinderpoint Logistics, an identical $4,975 2 days later. All work orders signed by Branson Harding, the manager currently on holiday in Aruba, and according to gossip, permanently unreachable. At 3:12 a.m., Layla emailed a screenshot to herself and shut the laptop. She had a dawn shift in 4 hours. She told herself the double $4,975s were coincidence. She dreamed of digits chasing her through hotel corridors. Morning staff meeting hastily called. Layla explained Roth's offer, watching reactions churn terror in Nate's bouncing knee, cautious hope in Rosa's watery grin, outright hostility in Luis. "If we hitch our paychecks to your signature," he growled, "we need more than a billionaire's IOU." "Then dig with me," Layla shot back. "Audit every invoice, every vendor. If it stinks, we flush it." "Management never let us near those books," Rosa whispered. "Well, management just left for Aruba," Layla said, sliding open the rusted file cabinet like a vault crack. They worked past checkout time. Rosa highlighted duplicates. Nate updated a Google sheet in real time. Luis sat cross-legged on the floor, reading ledgers that smelled of mildew and cigar smoke. By sunset, the pattern glittered undeniable fake vendors' ghost repairs payouts, hovering under the $5,000 threshold that triggers automatic bank scrutiny. "That's money laundering territory," Luis muttered, rubbing his temples. Their eyes met, not enemies now, but co-conspirators against something bigger. Just after 9, the lobby doors hissed. A man no one recognized strolled in, as if the carpet belonged to him. Tailored graphite suit, pocket square red as warning lights. He inspected the chandelier, the lobby desk, finally, Layla behind it. "Evening. I'm looking for Branson Harding or whoever's holding the reins these days." "Harding's gone," Layla replied. "Pity. We had important invoices pending." He extended a card, the texture of snakeskin, nothing on its face, but a matte black V in relief. "Marcus Vale Acquisition Services." The name struck like sudden altitude drop. She'd seen MV initials on at least 20 invoices. Vale's smile thinned. "Tell Mr. Harding the schedule's not as flexible as he imagined." "We don't pay ghosts," she answered before fear could muzzle her. He gave a small, impressed nod. "Good luck, Miss Green. Hotels can be fragile." He departed into the sodium glow outside, leaving silence and the faint scent of expensive tobacco. Luis exhaled a word not printable on menus. Nate's pen slipped from his fingers. Layla tucked Vale's card into the folio next to the deeds, like a snake curled beside a gift box, and locked the drawer. 48 hours had become 48 sparks poised above gasoline, and midnight was far from over. Vale's card still radiated menace from the locked drawer when Layla returned to the office an hour later, with a thermos of burnt coffee and a headache that felt like a siren behind her eyes. Luis was still on the floor, cross-legged among ledgers, but the wary distrust he'd worn all afternoon had shifted into something grimmer. "I've seen that guy before," he murmured without looking up. Harding used to disappear into the alley whenever a black town car idled outside. Same cologne, same shoes. Layla set the thermos between them. "Then we know whose fingerprints to follow." She slid a trash bag across the carpet. "Sweep everything questionable in here. We digitize print and tag by vendor. Hard copies stay off-site." "What off-site?" "My sister's basement in Yonkers," she said. "Nobody launders money next to a foosball table and 3 chihuahuas." By dawn, they had 2 banker boxes of papers and a spreadsheet spaghetti-striped in warning red duplicates. Rosa shuffled in for the breakfast shift, took one look at their faces, and wordlessly locked the lobby door, while Nate rousted the cook to keep guests distracted. 6 hands moved faster than 2. By 8 a.m., they had scanned every invoice and thumbtacked a timeline across the corkboard. Helios Cinderpoint, Brightgate Environmental, all billing on a staggered 4-day cycle, all just shy of $5,000, all approved under the rubber-stamped signature, B. Harding. At 9, Damian Roth called. Layla put him on speaker. "I'm told a Marcus Vale visited," he said, voice cool as library marble. "He did more than visit," Luis growled. Layla cut in. "Your hotel was a washing machine." Harding and Vale stuffed in cash, spun it clean, and dripped it into shell companies. "We have paper to prove it." A pause. Then Roth exhaled, like a man tasting rust. "I suspected irregularities. Harding stonewalled my auditors." "Irregularities is generous," Luis said, arms folded. Roth's tone hardened. "I'll dispatch legal tomorrow. In the meantime, beef up security." Layla muted the line. "We're security," she said. "Until lawyers show we hold the fort." She unmuted. "Send your team, but we're not waiting. And the 48 hours you gave me, consider them revoked. I'm signing nothing until the poison's mapped." Roth didn't argue. That frightened her more than if he had. Tension leaked into ordinary shifts. Housekeepers whispered in corridors. Front desk phones rang with hang-ups. At lunch, Luis found the boiler room padlock snapped hinges scored by fresh metal. Nothing stolen, but the message was clear eyes everywhere. Nate wanted to call the cops. Rosa feared retaliation. Layla called a staff meeting in the underlit ballroom dust motes, swirling through a single busted skylight. "Anyone who wants out, no shame," she said. "Clock out and stay home until this shakes loose." Silence. Then a young bellhop named Marcus, unfortunate coincidence, lifted his hand. "My brother's tuition depends on this job, but I can't send him money if we're shut down." Luis scanned the room. "We close ranks. Guests never see a crack." He caught Layla's gaze, and for the first time she saw partnership, not challenge. That night she drove the banker boxes to Yonkers, in her rust-pocked Civic Adrenaline, yawning into exhaustion, only when the hotel's neon sign melted into rear-view darkness. Her sister Shay met her at the door in bunny slippers. "You're smuggling documents now." "Laundry, just not the clean kind," Layla said, forcing a grin. They stashed boxes behind old Christmas decorations. The chihuahuas barked approval. Back in the city, the Ember Light's lobby lights flickered. Nate had left a voicemail. Guy in a charcoal suit was back. Asked for you, by name. Left when I said you were off site. Layla's pulse drummed. She pulled to the curb, killed the engine, and watched the dark windows. Somewhere inside, Vale had walked her halls, breathing their air. She spent the next 2 hours on a diner, Wi-Fi cross-referencing shell company filings. Brightgate traced to a Delaware P.O. box that also registered MV Consultants, LLC. Screenshot save label. Copy to encrypted drive. By 3:00 a.m., her eyelids felt sanded, but the framework of something prosecutable glimmered in her folders. At dawn, she emailed all evidence password-locked to a local investigative journalist, Elise Porter, whose exposés had toppled 2 zoning commissioners last year. Subject line: Emberlight Hotel. Urgent financial crimes need discretion. She hit send, heart hammering like a fist on sheet metal, and whispered to the sleeping city, "Your move, Mr. Vale." Sun rose blood orange over the Bronx. Layla parked behind the hotel and climbed the service stairs, each step a vow. The lobby smelled of burnt coffee and fresh fear, but Nate offered a shaky thumbs up. Rosa pressed a lavender sachet into her hand for courage, and Luis flicked the breaker that steadied the chandelier overhead. They were still here. They were still in it. Layla unlocked the office, placed Vale's snakeskin card dead center on the desk, and set a sticky note atop it. Clocks ticking. Because midnight might have ended, but the match he'd struck was still burning, and she intended to follow the smoke all the way to its source. The sticky note still clung to Vale's card the next morning, but someone had rotated the card a precise quarter turn, as though to remind her that eyes slipped past every lock. Layla inhaled through her teeth, peeled the note free, and stuffed both card and paper into her pocket. No time to rattle. She stepped into the lobby to brief a skeleton crew on breakfast service, only to find Rosa wiping rainwater off the marble tiles. The ceiling wasn't leaking. The revolving door had been wedged open with a length of piano wire no one owned. Night air rain, and whoever had planted it had roamed in and out at will. Luis arrived seconds later, boots splashed with alley mud. "Boiler room's tripped," he said flatly. Someone yanked the emergency shutoff, flooded half the pipes, left the valve tag on the floor like a calling card. Layla's gaze snapped to Nate, who sat pale behind the desk. "Any guests? See just the businessman in 302, he whispered. He asked for extra towels and said the water smelled like pennies. Layla swallowed a curse. "Okay." Rosa mopped the lobby. "Luis, get the furnace breathing before checkout chaos hits. Nate, print every guest manifest since Harding left and cross it with Vale's shell companies. We're done playing defense." They worked until noon beneath the hum of industrial fans. Tension pinballed through corridors. Every slammed door felt like gunfire. At one point, the fire alarm stuttered, twice chirped a single angry bleep, and fell silent. Somebody testing the wires, Luis guessed. The kitchen's walk-in freezer survived the morning, only because Chef Lorna had wedged a paring knife into the latch hours earlier, sick of it randomly locking. When she pulled the knife out at lunch, the latch disintegrated into her hand. By 2:30, Layla's phone buzzed. Sender, E. Porter. Got the files. Meeting tonight, 8 p.m. Morris Park, diner back booth. Relief washed through her veins, chased by dread. Proof was useless if it never saw daylight, and daylight was exactly what Vale feared. She printed 3 copies of the spreadsheet, marked suspicious vendors, encrypted 2 to USB drives, and sealed the originals in a padded envelope. As she taped the flap shut, the lobby phone rang. Nate answered, then held the handset toward her like a venomous snake. "It's Mr. Vale." Layla took the call on speaker. Vale's voice flowed smooth as new paint. "Miss Green, maintenance seems challenging today. Perhaps you've discovered why Harding preferred supplemental funding." "Supplemental felony, you mean?" she said. Luis nodded grim approval from across the office. Vale chuckled. "Big words for a waitress. I'll simplify, sign Roth's deed, keep the hotel open, and my interests remain non-intrusive. Continue spelunking, and the emberlight will burn from basement to roof before you pronounce embezzlement. Then, Start pouring gasoline." Layla answered and hung up. Her hands shook only after the dial tone flattened. Sunset bled violet across the Bronx, while she double-checked locks, handed Rosa a can of pepper spray, and told Nate to bar the door at midnight. Luis insisted on driving her to the diner in his battered pickup. "Passenger window doesn't roll up," he warned, "but I'm harder to kidnap than you." The Morris Park diner smelled of burnt sugar and fryer oil. Elise Porter, waved from a back booth hair, pulled under a knit cap recorder, already rolling. Layla slid the envelope across Formica like contraband. Luis stood sentinel by the pie carousel. Elise skimmed the first ledger page, eyebrows arching. Consistent sub-5,000 billing cycling vendors, Delaware P.O. boxes, textbook wash and go. "You understand publishing, this paints crosshairs on every one of you." Layla's reply emerged steady. "They're already aiming. We'd rather be on record when they pull the trigger." Elise shut the folder. "I can push an online exclusive by dawn print headline Sunday, but I'll need first-hand quotes." Layla nodded once. "Use my name. Use the staff's if they agree. We won't hide." On the ride back, Luis said nothing until the hotel's neon sign flickered into view. "You realize," he muttered the moment her story hits Vale's coming with lawyers, thugs, or both. "Good," Layla said. "We'll have NYPD and half the internet watching when he does." They discovered the lobby lights, dead main breaker flipped. Luis jogged to the basement, while Layla groped through darkness toward the reception desk. Her fingers brushed something slick on the counter. A single matchstick head struck, but unlit, and beneath it, a napkin scrawled in block letters, "Tick-tock." Luis threw the breaker. Fluorescence flared, banishing shadows. The napkin looked almost harmless in full light, but Layla's pulse hammered a war drum. She tucked it into her pocket beside Vale's card. Clocks ticking, she'd warned the echo had returned louder. She gathered the staff before dawn, each face lit by the green glare of emergency exit signs. "Elise runs the story tonight," she told them. "Vale knows. That means sabotage inspections may be worse. Anyone wants to leave doors open." No one moved. Rosa drew a shaky breath. "They think we're fragile," she said. "Let's prove steel bends, but doesn't snap." Nate raised a hand. "I'll sleep behind the desk until the cops shut them down." Chef Lorna brandished her paring knife. "Break my freezer again, and find out how sharp this is." Luis lifted a wrench the size of a toddler. "Clock's ticking for them." Layla felt her throat tighten. "Then we hold till sunrise," she whispered, "and every sunrise after." Outside, the quiet street waited, but inside the emberlight, a battered crew had chosen their side, and none of them intended to blink first. Dawn broke pale and sharp, slicing through the lobby windows like a challenge. The weary circle of staff dispersed to their stations, shoulders squared, eyes twitching at every unexplained creak. Layla stayed by the front desk, fingers hovering over the house phone in case the next ring announced either a reservation or a bomb threat. She could feel the hotel's pulse faster than usual, as if the building itself braced for impact. At 9:07 a.m., the first blow landed a city health inspector, unannounced. He arrived with 2 uniformed aides and a clipboard already half filled. "Anonymous complaint of rodent droppings," he explained without lifting his eyes. Layla forced a practiced smile and signaled Nate to fetch the sanitation log. Meanwhile, Rosa hustled ahead of the inspector, whisking along hallways that she'd scrubbed spotless 3 hours earlier. When the group reached the kitchen freezer, Chef Lorna swung the door wide in silent defiance. No rodents, only gleaming shelves and neatly labeled produce. The inspector scribbled something unintelligible, lips pinched, then snapped sprinkler valves next. Half an hour later, he departed, leaving a single citation for a cracked floor tile in the basement, laundry, an infraction minor enough to prove he'd searched, but found no real ammunition. Barely had he cleared the sidewalk when a plumbing truck reversed too quickly into the loading dock, shearing the metal railing and rupturing a water line with surgical accuracy. Luis sprinted outside, cursing in Spanish, as a cascade of rusty water gushed down the access ramp. The driver, white-knuckled, insisted the brakes had slipped. His invoice, Layla noticed, bore the logo of Cinder Point Logistics, one of Vale's ghosts. She photographed everything, shoved the images into a shared folder, labeled Evidence Escalation, and called Damian Roth. The billionaire's assistant answered, promised an emergency claims team, and warned that legal counsel would reach out within the hour. Layla hung up, wondering whether that was reassurance or a prelude to abandonment. Mid-afternoon brought quiet that felt like cotton, stuffed in everyone's ears. Luis and two line cooks welded a temporary patch over the cracked railing, while Chef Lorna fed admirers of the streaming chaos with bottomless coffee. Rosa taped caution signs around the laundry tile. Nate fielded calls from jittery future guests who'd read rumors online, but still wanted weekend rates if the place survived. Suspense thickened until it smelled like ozone before lightning. At 7:44 p.m., Elise texted a single lightning bolt emoji. Layla led the staff into the ballroom, where Nate projected the Gazette's website onto a bedsheet draped over stacked banquet chairs. Headline in 60-point type blazed: Bronx hotel launders millions for Shadow Empire whistleblowers speak. Beneath Layla's face stared back eyes determined, while Luis stood in the background gripping his wrench like a scepter. The article unpacked shell companies' forged invoices, Marcus Vale's name, even a blurry photo of Harding sipping cocktails in Aruba. Elise had laced every claim with scanned ledgers and anonymous forensic accountant quotes. She'd also embedded a live link inviting readers to stand guard at the Emberlight watch history, flip the light switch. Within minutes, the comment feed exploded. Supporters pledged to book rooms. Trolls predicted arson by dawn. A neighborhood councilwoman demanded a state probe. Applause rippled through the staff, quiet, stunned, half terrified of their own courage. Layla's phone rang again. This time the caller ID flashed unknown. She steadied her breath before answering. Silence for 2 beats. Then Vale's voice. No velvet tonight, only steel. You've made yourself famous. Fame fades. Fires don't. Click. The line died. Luis locked the front doors, bolted them with a chain scavenged from maintenance. Chef Lorna raided the pantry for canned sterno and thermoses of coffee siege supplies. She quipped, though the tremor in her laugh betrayed nerves. Nate set up a live webcam in the lobby window, red LED, blinking like a promise to the world that shadows couldn't move unrecorded. Rosa distributed freshly laundered towels, so no one would shiver on watch in the air-conditioned corridors. Near midnight, police sirens Dopplered past, but didn't stop. Social media pings multiplied, and every vent seemed to hiss louder. Layla walked the property line with the pepper spray Rosa had pressed into her palm, spotting media vans stationed across the boulevard like sentinels. She realized the hotel had never felt so exposed, and yet never so defended. Back in the lobby, she found Luis tightening the chain on the doors one last notch. "You expected him to fold after the article?" he asked. "I expected him to bleed," she answered, throat raw. "But cornered animals bite first. Then we keep the lights on till morning," Luis said, flicking the lobby switch. The chandelier glowed steady, no flicker this time. As Layla settled into the high-backed chair behind the desk, Vale's matchstick napkin in her pocket crackled like an ember, but outside the neon sign still burned Emberlight, unwavering against the Bronx night. The real blaze, she vowed, would be truth bright enough to keep every shadow at bay. Pink dawn finally diluted the street lamps, and with it came the first wave of curious onlookers. Neighbors balancing paper cup coffees, reporters angling for B-roll, a handful of borough activists waving cardboard signs that read, "Bring the light." Inside, Layla uncrossed legs that had gone pins and needles in the high-backed chair and straightened her rumpled blazer. The neon Emberlight sign still blazed. She took it as an omen. At 7:12 a.m., 2 unmarked sedans rolled up. Detectives Rivera and Cho flashed badges, produced a warrant, and asked to see all original ledgers referenced by yesterday's Gazette article. No surprise, Elise had warned they'd follow quickly. Layla led them past guests, eating boxed cereal in the dining nook. Rosa whispered a blessing. Luis shadowed the officers with folded arms the width of sewer pipes. In the manager's office, Rivera photographed every drawer before opening it. Cho bagged Harding's abandoned desktop tower, rattled off chain of custody numbers, and accepted the banker boxes Layla had retrieved from Yonkers at dawn. When she handed over the flash drive duplicate, Cho murmured smart to keep copies evidence gets mislaid. Layla caught the unspoken, especially when powerful men panic, and nodded grim acknowledgement. They were still inventorying when a silver Jag, with tinted glass, screeched to the curb. A man in a three-piece charcoal suit emerged brandishing a folder thick with blue-backed legal pages. Marcus Vale hadn't bothered to hide behind proxies this time. He stalked to the entrance, only to meet the detectives head-on. Rivera blocked the threshold. "Hotel's an active crime scene," he said. Vale's smile stayed frozen a beat too long before he handed over the folder, cease and desist orders accusing Layla of defamation and unlawful disclosure of proprietary contracts. Rivera accepted it without reading. "File it with the clerk," he said, then shut the door in Vale's face. Applause fluttered from the mezzanine where Nate had been live-streaming. Vale's jaw flexed once. Then he turned on his heel coat, flaring like a raven's wing, and was gone. But the message lingered. His war had shifted from shadows to courtrooms. By noon, the detectives had seized the boiler logs, every Helios and Cinderpoint invoice, and the busted padlock from the night before. They posted a single strip of yellow tape across Harding's office, and left with a promise: expect follow-ups. Luis watched their taillights disappear. "First time the city's hauled junk out of here instead of dumping it," he muttered, almost smiling. The lull lasted 90 minutes. A courier in an orange vest delivered a matte black envelope addressed to Ms. L. Green. Inside lay a glossy photograph Layla loading boxes into her sister's Civic, time-stamped 2:03 a.m. Yonkers. Beneath, in block letters, "Every match has fuel." A burnt matchstick was taped beside the caption. Fear skittered icy fingers up her spine. Someone had been close enough to smell the chihuahuas. She called Elise from the linen closet, voice low. "They're watching my family now." "I'll escalate the journalist," said already typing. "If they want daylight, we'll give them floodlights. Tonight, I'm airing a podcast with the raw files. City Hall can't ignore audio." Layla returned to the lobby to find Rosa, pinning handwritten notes to the corkboard. "Stay strong, Emberlight. Booked my wedding here in '09. Honor to stand with you. Free security patrol, call me." Nate was comforting a jittery guest from Milwaukee who worried the hotel might explode on Instagram. He handed her a complimentary baked good and quoted a full refund policy without missing a beat. Still, Layla thought admiring them all. By late afternoon, volunteers from a nearby community college arrived with battery-powered LED floodlights. They wired the fixtures along the facade, turning night into soft day. An elderly neighbor donated 2 retired German shepherds for overnight watch. "They hate trespassers more than fleas," she promised. The dogs took up positions by the loading dock like furry gargoyles. As dusk pooled violet again, Detective Cho called preliminary subpoenas on Vale's shell. Companies were approved. "Stay visible," she advised. "Predators hunt dark corners." Layla glanced at the blaze of new LEDs, the webcam's red eye, the milling supporters outside. "We've never been brighter," she replied, though her thumb still stroked the photograph in her pocket, edges damp from sweat. Chef Lorna banged a spoon against a stock pot to gather everyone before the dinner rush. "Toast time," she declared, holding up styrofoam cups of lemonade. To matching their fire, Luis clinked wrenches instead of glass. Rosa dabbed tears with a dishcloth. Nate raised the webcam so the online viewers could join. Layla lifted her cup last. "Here's to embers," she said, voice steady. Small, stubborn, and impossible to stomp out. Outside, beneath letters that had sold 1,000 tired rooms, Emberlight glowed harder than ever, its circuitry humming like a heart refusing a rest. Somewhere in the city, Marcus Vale was striking matches. She could almost smell the sulfur, but every window of the hotel now threw back its own defiant flame, daring him to try and drown it. Marcus Vale kept lighting metaphoric matches, but every pane of glass in the Emberlight bounced his sparks back into the night. Twice unknown cars cruised past with headlights killed. The German shepherds answered with thunderous barks, and the new flood bars washed license plates into live stream clarity. An online viewer grabbed a screenshot tagged Detective Cho on X, and by dawn, the visitors' plates were in a police bulletin. Vale's shadows found no place to settle. 3 days after the subpoena news, the fuse he'd hoped to ignite fizzled outright. Agents from the State Financial Crimes Task Force raided the Midtown suite that housed Helios Cinderpoint and Brightgate. Footage hit local news before lunch, paper shredders still chewing, as doors were kicked in box files stacked like tombstones in evidence vans. That same afternoon, a judge denied the cease and desist against Layla as transparent intimidation. Vale's attorneys slunk from the courthouse. Reporters swarmed. Damian Roth issued a statement praising civic bravery by hotel staff who refused silence. Inside, the Emberlight relief felt like pins popping from a tight seam. Rosa rang a brass handbell each time another indictment headline popped. Nate printed them and taped the pages to the service corridor until the plaster looked quilted in justice. Even Luis cracked a grin when the Gazette published Harding's extradition photos from Aruba, captioned former manager, arrested in swim shorts and flip-flops. Yet victory demanded more than enemy collapse. It required a forward step. On a Tuesday, striped with April sun, Layla convened the crew beneath the still buzzing neon sign. She held an architect's rendering, a new bronze marquee. The Hearth House, a place to belong. Fresh start, she said, feeling the words anchor. A beacon, not a hiding spot. No one argued. Even the dogs thumped approval. The rebrand reveal was set for Saturday night. Volunteers strung warm Edison bulbs across the facade. Chef Lorna perfected a cinnamon and peach cobbler she swore could end wars. The lobby filled with potted ferns donated by the bodega owner, who'd once predicted the hotel would crumble. Jazz students from the community college tuned saxophones in the disused ballroom. And thanks to a GoFundMe boosted by Elisa's podcast, the cracked marble in reception was replaced by reclaimed oak, stamped with the neighborhood's original street grid. On the afternoon of the gala, an unfamiliar sedan eased to the curb. An elderly woman stepped out, silver chignon cane, polished like ebony. The shepherds quieted, as if briefed. She introduced herself softly, Celeste Vale, Marcus's mother. Layla's pulse flicked to guard, but Celeste lifted a velvet pouch. My late husband mentored architects who built half this borough when loans were scarce. Marcus forgot why those doors mattered. I did not. Inside the pouch lay a certified check for $10,000 and a note for the children who will learn here. Layla, speechless, guided her to a front row seat. Twilight settled. The tarp over the marquee glowed lantern orange from the string lights. Layla climbed a borrowed stepladder. Her voice amplified only by breath and belief carried. We were called fragile. We bent. We never broke. Tonight we trade embers for a hearth, steady heat open to all. She tugged the rope. Canvas fell. Bronze letters caught every camera flash. Cheers burst like fireworks. Nate's webcast chat scrolled faster than the pixels could render. Inside the ballroom pulsed with sax riffs and clinking mugs of cider. Detectives Rivera and Cho dropped by off-duty, earning hugs that smelled of pastry sugar. Damian Roth arrived, quietly delivered new deeds. Land included no clawbacks, and slipped away before anyone could toast him. Chef Lorna's cobbler disappeared in 13 minutes. Celeste Vale tapped her cane against a glass and pledged a yearly grant to something Layla had only drafted that morning. The Hearth Legacy Scholarship, first funds earmarked for Luis's nephew and Rosa's goddaughter. Near midnight, with guests twirling under string lights and kids playing tag between banquet chairs, Layla drifted to the sidewalk. The neon tubes that once sputtered now slept in a salvage bin. Above her, the bronze marquee gleamed, reflecting hundreds of tiny bulbs that would stay lit till dawn. Elise joined her recorder off for once. Scared, the journalist asked. Always, Layla answered. Fire's part of the job. Think Vale's finished striking matches. If he isn't, Layla said, eyes on the glowing windows, he'll learn you can't burn down a house that's all light. She raised her paper cup. No champagne, just strong Bronx coffee, to the sign, the staff, the humming street. Somewhere miles away, A man nursed the last flicker of a failed empire. But here, the hearth house radiated steady warmth. An ordinary miracle founded on one rain-soaked decision to lift a stranger from asphalt and keep pulling people up until the whole block stood tall. Steel, they'd called themselves. Maybe so. But steel still needs fire to forge fire they owned. Now banked safely behind brick and community blazing for anyone who needed to find their way home.